And welcome back to Your Viewpoint. This is your host, Patrick Deya. Your Excellency, you come from a background of good citizenship. You worked with issues of development from the Ufadeli, to promote the human elements
Yes.
of development, health,
Yes.
partnership within communities,
Yes.
civil society, business and government.
That's
And you have a
right.
long history, you work in several places.
Yes.
These are core issues that um, there is a need, people talk about there's a need for recognizing the value of the same thing that you've done before, especially in a country where there seems to be so much difference in social setting. How does the government plan to look at these issues from a very aggressive manner?
Thank you. You're right. My background is primarily in civil society. I've worked in community development, community organizing, issues of social justice. That has been my life. So this work in government and in diplomacy is fairly new for me. And in fact, if it wasn't for the fact that Kenya was on the path to reform, it is very possible that I would not have accepted to take an appointment in this government. The reason why I took the appointment was that I had a very good sense and feeling about what I saw happening in Kenya at the beginning of 2008 in terms of the reform agenda. And in fact, my very appointment is an indication of it, that the government is able to hire people on the basis of not the usual business as usual, but looking at people, looking at the qualifications that they have. And when I asked, when I was appointed, why I was being appointed, I said, because you have been doing community development work in Kenya and you know Kenya well. And that's what we want you to do, is to go and represent Kenya. And so that's an indication. And if you look at the manner in which appointments are now being made in the government, in senior level, key positions in the government, that will confirm the same. People are now hired on a very competitive basis. And that's, I guess, the blessing in disguise in having this coalition government, because you have two parties who are checking on each other, and the two principals, if and when an appointment has to be made, the two have to agree, and all of them want to make sure that whoever they put forward, whoever is brought forward, is a person of substance, a person who has the qualifications that are needed to take on the job at hand. So I'm seeing a lot of positive things. I'm seeing more and more, even within the civil service. The civil service is being professionalized. We have a code of ethics in the civil service now. In every public office that you go to, there is a service charter that states very clearly what is expected of public servants. We are seeing people in the private sector moving from the private sector and moving into government. Again, bringing in this new blood. We are seeing people from civil society, such as myself, moving out of their sector and coming into government. So this is all good, I believe, for the government. It is changing the way that the government thinks. It is changing the way the government behaves. And I think ultimately it will bring about significant changes in terms of the performance of the public sector.
And at the time you came, the relationships between the U.S. and Kenya was not very warm, due to certain things that your predecessor probably did do, especially, for example, talking about criticizing the current president before he was president, for talking about corruption and things like that.
That's right.
And how have you dealt with that?
Well, you're right. There were issues, but I must say, generally speaking, the relationship between the United States and Kenya has been a good, positive, and a healthy relationship since the time of our independence in 1963. There's absolutely no question about that. But as with any relationship, there are moments of difficulty, there are moments of tension. And I think that's what you are referring to. Even as we speak now, there have been some tensions between Kenya and the United States because the United States ambassador in Nairobi, Ambassador Ranneberger, has been under a lot of attack recently for what some constituents in Kenya see as excessive involvement with internal affairs of Kenya. This is to be expected, but I think the bottom line is that our relationship has generally been good. Yes, there have been tensions, but for me, I couldn't imagine a better time to be an ambassador in the United States. The election of President Obama was historic, not just for the United States. It was a historic moment for the whole world. We all watched it, we all cheered it, we all celebrated it. So I feel very honored and very privileged to be serving Kenya at this point in time. And my agenda is to make sure that the relationship between the United States and Kenya is as good as it has ever been, and better in the time that I will be here. And I sense a lot of goodwill on the part of the American government and the American people so far.
And you have a common background with the President of the United States, community organizing.
That's right, yes.
Development, the grassroots.
That's right.
Things that deal with the table issues.
Yes.
Around the table issues.
Yes.
One of the things that you've said is that you will make sure that you take President Obama home.
Yes.
How important is that, and why is it important?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good question. Those were not exactly my words. That is how it was quoted in the media. Okay. The new envoy has vowed to take President Obama home. Those are not my words. The context within which that was raised was that President Obama had been interviewed by a Kenyan journalist sometime early last year. And in that interview, the journalist had asked President Obama if he had plans to come and visit Kenya. And the president responded in the affirmative and said, yes, he very much was intending to come. And so it was within that context that the question was asked of me. Mm-hmm. And my response was, a visit by President Obama to Kenya is not only important for Kenya, it's important for Africa as a continent as well. And it would be a very important visit for many reasons, because the visit by any head of state to another country usually signifies the relationship, the level of relationship between any two countries. So a visit to Kenya by President Obama will send the right signals, for example, to the American public, to the American private sector and investors, whom we want to encourage to come and invest in Kenya, because Kenya is ready for investment. Kenya is a good place, probably one of the best places and the best opportunities for any investor. And therefore, it will be an important moment for Kenyans. It will be an important moment for Africa, if and when President Obama does it. And I very much do hope that he will be able to visit during this time Kenya.
And with that, we will be right back. This is Your Viewpoint. We'll be right back.